Alright, sanction comply guidance for virtual currency industry, Office of Foreign Asset Control, October 21st. Introduction. What is the OFAC? What is OFAC? Sanctions, SDN. How do you block virtual currency? Case study: OFAC sanction involving virtual currency, applying with OFC sanctions, strict liability regulations, OFC requirement, procedure, reporting requirements, record keeping requirements, license procedure, consequent non-compliance, performance procedure, performance guidelines, performance action, voluntary self-disclosure, sanction compliance, best practice, virtual currency industry, management commitment, risk assessment, case study, diagnosis, risk, relationship, internal controls, case study, double duty data, sanction screening, remediating root cause violation, indicator testing, auditing, training, OFC resources, FAQs of virtual currency topics, contact information, resource sites. Alright, Virtual introduction. Virtual currency began to play with an increasingly prominent role with the global economic growing prevalence of the virtual currencies payment method, likewise bringing greater exposure to sanction risks. The risk of the sanctioned person or person jurisdiction subject to sanctions might be involved in the virtual currency transaction. According to the virtual currency industry, including technology companies with exchange with administrators, miners, wallet providers, users play as increasingly critical role preventing sanctioned persons from exploiting virtual currencies to evade sanctions and undermine U.S. foreign policy and national security interests. U.S. Department of the Treasury Office of the Foreign Asset Control, or OFAC, is issuing guidance to assist the virtual currency industry in mitigating these risks. The Office of Foreign Asset Control sanction compliance obligations are applied to equal transactions involving virtual currency that involves traditional flat currencies. Members of the virtual currency industry with a responsibility to ensure that do not engage directly and indirectly in transactions prohibited by the Office of Foreign Asset Control, such as dealings with blocked person property or engage in prohibited trade or investment related transaction. Guidance will assist you with the virtual currency industry in evaluating sanctions related to risk of their line of business, building a risk-based sanction compliance program, protecting the business sanction violation, initial misuse virtual currencies by malicious actors, understanding Office of Foreign Asset Control record-keeping, report, licensing, and enforcement process. The Office of Foreign Asset Control committed to engaging virtual currency industry to promote understanding of or compliance with sanctions requirements, due diligence, best practices. Alright, what virtual currency versus digital currency? What do the terms mean with the Office of Foreign Asset Control sanctions? Digital currency includes sovereign cryptocurrency, virtual currency, non-flat, a digital representation of flat currency. Virtual currency is a digital representation of value, functions a medium of exchange. 2, a unit action, and or 3, a store value is neither issued nor guaranteed by any jurisdiction. What is the Office of Foreign Asset and Control? The Office of Foreign Asset Control is the Office of the U.S. Department of Treasury responsible for administering and enforcing economic sanctions against targeted foreign countries, geographical regions, and even individuals for the U.S. foreign policy, national security goals. Economic sanctions are used by the U.S. government to prevent targets such as terrorists, international narcotic traffickers, weapons mass destruction proliferators, perpetrators of serious human rights abuse, with assessing U.S. financial system for the purpose of contrary U.S. foreign policy, national security interests, and to change behavior of such targets. In this way, among others, economic sanctions can be a powerful foreign policy tool, but effective sanctions rely upon the active participation of everyone subject to U.S. jurisdiction, including those with the virtual currency industry. What is the Office of Foreign Asset Control sanctions? Office of Foreign Asset Control administers 35 different sanction programs, each designed to respond specifically to threats and to foreign U.S. foreign policy and national security goals. As a result of the type of sanction employed, in each program may differ. Generally, the Office of Foreign Asset Control sanctions could be either comprehensive with a targeted nature, can require blocking assets, impose restriction, financial trade related to activities of a specific person, county, region, such a specific person, country, region, and government. Most comprehensive sanctions programs the Office of Foreign Asset Control administers typically include several or all of the following type of sanctions, while the other sanction programs may only employ some of these options. We have broad trade-based sanctions or embargoes, prohibited dealings with an entire country or geographic region, except with the authorized type of the sanction, usually include prohibition on importing and exporting goods, services to and from sanctioned jurisdictions. Such sanctioned jurisdictions currently include Cuba, Iran, North Korea, Syria, and Crimea regime of Ukraine. Government regime sanction. Either one, require blocking all property interests of the particular foreign government regime that are come with the United States or the possession or the control of a U.S. person, or prohibit specific types of transaction activities involving a particular foreign government or regime. Listed bank-based sanctions. Target specifically listed individuals that need either the requiring blocking of all property of those listed purposes that are comes in with the United States or the possession of the control of the U.S. person, prohibited specific types of transaction activities listed person. Sectoral sanctions. Target individual and either operating in specific sectors of the foreign country economies or prohibited specific activities associated with a sector of foreign country economy. In its administration, list-based sanctions, Office of Foreign Asset Control maintains several public lists of the individuals that need the identified blocked property, such as aircraft vessels targeted with the Office of Foreign Asset Control sanctions. The most prominent among these are specially designated nationals and block list persons known as the SDNL list. Both the SDNN list and the consolidated sanction list are the list that combines all of the other sanction lists maintained by the Office of Foreign Asset Control, available for the public use with a number of the different data formats, data schemes, make it easier to screen and use Office of Foreign Asset Control sanctions list for the compliance purpose. The Office of Foreign Asset Control has a research tool, Sanction List Search, which conducted searches across all of the sanctions listed administered by the Office of Foreign Asset and Control. Explained with the Office of Foreign Asset Control, the 50% rule. Office of Foreign Asset Control sanctions does not separate listed names to entities owned by the 50% or more by black person or country, regimes, government, or subject to comprehensive sanctions. Office of Foreign Asset Control sanction programs are dynamic, so prior to due diligence on the parties of location with which you plan to do business is essential. For the more program specific sanction information, please visit Office of Foreign Asset Control Sanction Programs Country Information webpage. The SDNN list. Office of Foreign Asset Control Specially Designated National Block Person list, or the SDNN list, is one of the lists sanctioned person for the Office of Foreign Asset Control publishes as part of the enforcement efforts. The Special Designated Nationals list includes certain individuals that need sanctions due to the nexus of the targeted country, geographical region, or regime. The specifically designated nationals include the individual groups that need, such as terrorists, narcotic traffickers, human rights abusers, designated under sanctioned programs that are not jurisdictional specific. Collectively designated individuals that needs are called specially designated nationals and block persons, or the SDNNs. As date of the publication of the Office of Foreign Asset Control, the specially designated national list contains over 9,000 names of variation thereof designated individuals that need to be located around the world, as well with identifications of a certain property blocked by sanctions such as vessels and aircraft. The special designated national list is frequently updated. You can sign up to receive the email notification Foreign Asset Control updates of the specially designated national list. Additionally, pursuant to the Office of Foreign Asset and Control 50% rule, any owned directly and indirectly 50% or more individually aggregated by one or more black person is also considered a black person, even if the entity does not itself appear on the special designated national list, and the same restrictions apply. Revised guidance that neither owned by a person whose property interests or property are blocked. In general, unless except with the authorized Office of Foreign Asset Control, U.S. persons are prohibited engaging in transactions. Special designated nationals or black persons, directly and indirectly, most black property in their possession and control in which the special designated nationals or black person has an interest. To learn more about sanctions lists and maintained with the Office of Foreign Asset Control, visit Office of Foreign Asset Control, other Office of Foreign Asset Control sanction list webpage. How do you block virtual currency? One of the U.S. persons determines that they hold virtual currency required to block pursuant to the Office of Foreign Asset Control Regulation. The U.S. person must deny all parties access to virtual currency and ensure that they comply with the Office of Foreign Asset Control Regulation. Will leave the holding and reporting of the block active to implement controls along with a risk-based approach. U.S. person not obligated to convert the block virtual currency with additional flat currency and U.S. dollars are not required to hold such block property in interest-bearing account. Block virtual currency must be reported to Office of Foreign Asset Control within 10 business days. Thereafter, the annual basis, so long as virtual currency remains blocked. The Office of Foreign Asset Control frequently asked question 646. Case study. Office of Foreign Asset Control sanctions involving the virtual currency. In recent years, the Office of Foreign Asset and Control sanctions have increasingly targeted individuals that have used virtual currency in connection with the Malinge activity. For example, the March 2nd, 2020 Office of Foreign Asset and Control sanctioned two Chinese nationals involved with a North Korean state-sponsored money laundering scheme. The individual received approximately $100 million in virtual currency stolen from when the cyber intrusion against the two virtual currency exchange began. Layering in the funds, complex transactions include purchasing over $1 million digital music gift cards. More recently, September 21st, 2021, Office of Foreign Asset Control designated the Russian virtual currency exchange with a facility financial transaction ransomware actors. Based on analysis, known transaction over 40% of the exchange transaction history has been associated with illicit actors, following proceeds from at least 8 ransomware variants, and a sanctioned person of the country has become more desperate for access to the U.S. financial system. It's all vital that the virtual currency industry provides cybersecurity, implement effective sanctions, compliant controls, and mitigate the risks of sanctioned persons and other actors exploiting virtual currencies to undermine U.S. foreign policy interests and national security. Must comply with the Office of Foreign Asset Control sanctions. All U.S. persons are required to comply with the Office of Foreign Asset Control regulations. This includes U.S. citizens, lawful permanent residents, wherever located, to individuals that live in the United States within entities organized to the law of the United States with the jurisdiction of the United States, including the foreign branch of the U.S. entities. According to anyone engaging in virtual currency as activity in the United States involved with the U.S. individuals or entities should be aware of the Office of Foreign Asset Control sanctions requirements with the circumstances in which they must comply with these requirements. Depending on the authorities governing each sanction programs, other than may require with the Office of Foreign Asset Control sanction requirements. For example, the Office of Foreign Asset Control Cuba, Iran, North Korea sanction programs extended sanction prohibitions to certain foreign entities owned or controlled by the U.S. person or U.S. financial institution. Certain activities but non-U.S. person involved with the United States, U.S. persons, or goods or services exported from the United States may also be subject to the Office of Foreign Asset Control sanction regulations. Additional, most sanction programs and transaction cause violation include transaction by non-U.S. person causes a U.S. person to violate sanctions. Also prohibited with certain sanction program U.S. person, whoever located, are also prohibited facilitating actions on behalf of the non-U.S. persons if the activity were prohibited by sanction regulations, if directly performed by a U.S. person within the United States or within the United States. Strict liability regulations. Office of Foreign Asset Control may impose civil penalties and sanction violations generally based on strict liability legal standards. This means that in most cases, the U.S. person may be held civilly liable for the sanction violation even without the knowledge or reason to know it was engaged in such a violation. General matter, the Office of Foreign Asset Control takes consideration total asset, totality of the facts, circumstances surrounding the apparent violation, determining the appropriate enforcement response. For example, the Office of Foreign Asset Control may consider the mitigating factor of virtual currency companies' implementation risk-based Office of Foreign Asset Control compliance program remedial measures that take into response to apparent violation. For more information, see Section 3, Enforcement Guidelines, General Factors Affecting Administrative Action. Office of Foreign Asset Control Requirements and Procedures. Office of Foreign Asset Control Requirements and Procedures, such as certain reporting, record-keeping requirements, license procedures uniformly apply across the sanctioned programs. For more complete description of requirements and procedures, refer to Title 31 CFR Part 501, Reporting Procedure Penalty Program, or RPPR. Office of Foreign Asset Control answer frequently asked questions on reporting requirements. Reporting requirements. Initially, blocked property reports must be filed within business day following the day where the property is blocked. Annual block property reports are on all block property held on June 30th of the current year must be filed annually no later than September 30th each year. Rejected transaction reports must be filed within business days of the day the transaction was rejected due to the sanction requirements. On-demand reports information related to transaction project with the property of the Office of Foreign Asset Control regulations may be required by the Office of Foreign Asset Control Office of Foreign Asset Control at any time through an administrative subpoena, as Title 31 CFR 501-602 for more information. Office of Foreign Asset Control shall only encourage files submit initially blocked property for rejected transaction port to Office of Foreign Asset Control Secure Electronic Reporting Platform OFAC Reporting ORS to register submit the report of the Office of Foreign Asset Control Reporting System or the ORS program information. Please email OFAC report at treasury.gov. Record-keeping requirements. Who? Every person engaged in transactions subject to the Office of Foreign Asset Control regulations hold their block property, but must keep the record of the make of the record available to the examination. What? Full, accurate records required to each transaction subject to the Office of Foreign Asset Control regulations, including transaction proposed pursuant with a license, whether the general license or a specific license, or the property block are held. How long? Required records must be maintained 5 years of the day with the transaction with respect to the block property. 5 years of the property is unblocked. License procedures. Office of Foreign Asset Control may make exemptions to permit activity prohibited with a sanction not otherwise exempt. The exemption may take form of the general license or public issue with itself the executing authorization permit performing certain category transaction activity U.S. person or by it identified with the relevant sanction authorities. Upon request, Office of Foreign Asset and Control may issue specific license with the authorizing issue with a response specific license applying application level the applicant engaged in civil transaction activities otherwise prohibited. Individual interpretive of the guidance of the appropriate to clarify with how regular requirements apply with specific transaction. Each request of specific license interpretive of the guidance review with the Office of Foreign Asset Control on case-to-case basis with the other requirements considered coordination with the U.S. government agency before the Office of Foreign Asset Control can reach the determination. Office of Foreign Asset Control provides application written response. After reaching determination on each request, applicants encourage the specific license application request with the interpretive guidance electronically. Office of Foreign Asset Control license application portal. Consequences of the non-compliance failing to adhere with the Office of Foreign Asset Control sanction requirements that can cause considerable harm to the integrity and effectiveness of U.S. sanction programs, either the related to public object with consequently civil or criminal penalty with violation substantially. Office of Foreign Asset Control Authority imposes civil penalties for violations which may vary from by a sanction program. Enforcement procedures, enforcement guidelines. Office of Foreign Asset Control sanction enforcement process with the government procedure described in the Office of Foreign Asset Control economic sanction enforcement guidelines with the enforcement guidelines. See Title 31 CFR Part 501 Appendix A. Guidelines. Current penalty amounts. Office of Foreign Asset Control encourage virtual currency industry to review the enforcement guidelines for more information of the Office of Foreign Asset Control approach to sanction environment. Enforcement action. Office of Foreign Asset Control may take a variety of actions in response to parent violations that include with requesting additional information involved parties issuing either with a non-action letter, cautionary letter, finding violation, civil military penalty, resolve of the parent violations, entering into settlement involved parties, or referring matter to the other government agency, if appropriate with a criminal investigation. See the complete Office of Foreign Asset Control public enforcement action. Please visit the Civil Penalties Enforcement Information Management webpage. Voluntary self-discipline. For those who believe they have violated the Office of Foreign Asset Control administrative regulation, Office of Foreign Asset can encourage disclosing apparent violation. Office of Foreign Asset Control voluntarily. Voluntary self-disclosure. Office of Foreign Asset Control may be considered the mitigating factor with the Office of Foreign Asset Control enforcement actions pursuant with the enforcement guidelines may result with a 50% reduction in base amount of the proposed civil penalty. Voluntary self-disclosures can be submitted electronically as a foreign asset control disclosure, Treasury government, unless disclosed in the initial disclosure that will be supplemental additional information. Voluntary self-disclosure submission should contain sufficient detail to afford the Office of Foreign Asset Control complete understanding of the circumstances surrounding parent violation. Office of Foreign Asset Control Office of Compliance Enforcement had a delivery standard guidance preferred practice for the productions of the Office of Foreign Asset Control. Details Office of Foreign Asset Control preferred technical standards of the formatting electronic document production for submission. See FAQ 13. Sanction compliance with the best practice of the virtual currency industry. General matter, U.S. person will include members of the virtual currency industry reasonable with the ensure that they do not engage with the unauthorized transaction with the dealing sanctioned person with the jurisdiction. Of the foreign asset control strongly encourage risk-based approach of the sanction complying with the base of the no single compliance program solution with a suitable with the environment every circumstance or business. An adequate compliance solution with a member of the virtual currency industry will depend on a variety of factors, including the type of the business involved, the size, the sophistication of the product service offered for the customer, of the counterparty's geographical location served. Office of Foreign Asset Control framework of the Office of Foreign Asset Control complying with the commitments provided to the further detail of the 5 essential components of the sanction compliance programs shows management commitment, risk assessment, internal controls, and testing, auditing, and training. Framework also included appendices that highlight several of the most common and root causes of the sanction violations the Office of Foreign Asset Control has identified. All companies virtual currency industry, including technology companies and exchange of administrative miners, wallet providers, as well as the more traditional financial institution exposure that may have exposure to virtual currency, but their service providers encouraged to develop and implement and routinely update with a tailored risk-based sanction compliance program. Such compliance programs generally should include sanction list, geographical screening, and other appropriate measures to determine a complete unique risk profile. Management commitment. Senior management commitment with compliance sanction compliance programs is one of the most important factors to determine the program's success. Support of the senior management is critical to ensure that the sanction compliance efforts for the receive the adequate resources are fully integrated with the company's daily operation. Appropriate tone from the top of also how helps mitigate legitimize the program and empower the company's sanction compliance with the personnel, foster a compliance throughout the company. The importance of management of the commitment of the company to the risk-based sanction compliant program, same virtual currency industry as is any other. In many cases, the Office of Foreign Asset Control observe the member of the virtual currency industry implement the Office of Foreign Asset Control sanction policy procedure months and even years after commencing operation, delaying development and implementation of the sanction compliance program can expose virtual currency companies to a wide variety of potential sanction risk. It is never too soon to evaluate potential sanction risks, including the virtual currency company for the embedded testing stage of their operation. Such companies should consider sanction compliance during testing and review process of the sanction compliance can be accounted for the technology developed prior to the launching of the new product. Senior management companies in the virtual currency industry may consider the taking the following steps to demonstrate the support of the sanction compliance. Review and endorse sanction compliant policy procedures and endorse adequate resources, including human capital expertise, including information technology, other resources, support compliance function, delegated sufficient autonomy and authority of the compliance unit, and appoint dedicated sanction compliance officers who have the requisite technical expertise. Risk assessment. Sanction risk of the vulnerability with the ignore of the mishandle in violation of the foreign asset control regulations, subsequent enforcement actions harm to the U.S. foreign policy of national security interest, negatively impacts company reputation, business of Office of Foreign Asset Control recommends for the company virtual currency industry developing sanction compliance programs conduct a routine, if appropriate, ongoing risk assessment and identify the potential sanctions issue the company is likely to encounter. While there is no one-size-fits-all with the risk assessment, the exercise should generally include a complete review of the company, the asset, with the touch points for the foreign jurisdiction of their person. Process allows the company to identify the potential area that may directly and indirectly engage with the Office of Foreign Asset Control sanction person, countries, or regions. Result of the risk assessment with the integral of the development and effective sanction compliance with the policy procedure for the internal control of the training in order to mitigate exposure to sanction risk. Office of Foreign Asset and Control encourages members of the virtual currency industry to evaluate the exposure for the Office of Foreign Asset Control sanction and take steps to minimize the risk of including the development of the appropriate sanction compliance program prior to providing services of the products of the customer of the virtual currency company. The risk assessment process should be tailored for the type of the products and services offered, the location of such products. Services are offered. Appropriately customized risk assessment should reflect the company's customer, client-based products, services, supply chain, counterparties, transactions, geographical location. May also include evaluating whether the counterparties and partners have adequate compliance procedures. Case study: diagnostic risk relationship with the Office of, in 2021, the Office of Foreign Asset Control entered the settlement agreement U.S. virtual currency payment service provided for the processing of virtual currency transaction between company customers and person located within a sanctioned jurisdiction with the company sanction complying with the control that include the screening of direct customers, merchants of the United States and elsewhere with the potential nexus of the sanction with the company failed with the screening available information with the individuals who use the payment the processing platform to buy the products from the merchants. Simply prior to effect of the transaction, company receive the information about same of some of the sellers in such a name and address with the telephone number, the email address, with all times internet protocol address, comprehensive risk assessment, and include with the understanding existing company platform server or services made with the help of the members of the virtual currency industry to identify the appropriate screening standards set forth each of the product services. Internal controls. Effective sanction compliance with the program include with the policy procedure with the testing with the address the risk identified with the company risk assessment with the include with the control with identified with the interdict escalate with the report as appropriate and maintain record with the transaction actively probated to the Office of Foreign Asset Control the administer with the sanction of an effective sanction compliance with the program will engage the company with the conduct of sufficient with the due diligence customer of the business of the partnership identify red flags indicate the illicit compliance procedure breakdowns may occur with the prohibited company with investigate with the appropriate action policy procedures for the being enforced for the weakness should be identified and include in the root cause analysis of the complying the breach of the remedy with the prevent activity might violate sanction violate virtual currency industry with an internal controls component company implements with the depending on among the other things with the product service the company offers for the company operate for the location used with whether specific sanctions specific risk with the company identified with during the risk assessment process. Internal controls often involved with the use of the industry specifically tools such as the screening, investigation, transaction monitoring, Office of Foreign Asset Control does not require for virtual currency industry to use in particular in-house third-party software. These can be helpful tools with effective sanction compliance program. Case study with double duty data. One sanction risk member of the virtual currency industry face of the use of located sanction jurisdiction. Why try to access virtual currency product and services? Depending on the circumstance that may result in a sanction violation, 2020 U.S. company that offers of the digital asset custody, trading, and financial services international entered into a settlement agreement with the Office of Foreign Asset Control processing virtual currency transaction on behalf of the individuals appear with the located sanctioned jurisdiction. Although the company tracked its users' IP addresses when used logged in for security purposes, but the company did not use the IP address information it collected to screen with the prevent potential sanction violation. As a result, the company failed to prevent the non-custodial security of the digital wallet management services by an individual with IPS address and located within Crimea region of the Ukraine, Cuba, Iran, Sudan, Syria, and all sanctioned jurisdictions at the time, implementing internal controls to screen available data and block activity involving IP address and prevent sanctions violations. The Office of Foreign Asset Control recommends the following best practice for the virtual currency company for the strength of the internal controls as part of the other effective sanction compliance requirements. Geological locations. Incorporate geological tools with the IP address for the blocking control of the virtual currency company with strong sanction with compliance programs should be able to geolocational tools to identify the prevent IP address originating sanctioned jurisdiction from accessing company website with a service delivered for activity with the prohibited Office of Foreign Asset Control regulations. Not authorized example without these internal control of the currency company with the may fail with the prevent the person with the located with the comprehensively sanctioned jurisdiction from accessing the platform server that engage in the prohibited activity. Analytical tools identifying the IP misattribution, for example, by screening an IP address against known in virtual private network IP addresses identified with a probable login, such as same user logging with the IP address in the United States, then shortly after the IP address in Japan. Additionally, virtual currency companies with often other than information with the app alert the company with a particular transaction involved with a person located in the sanctioned jurisdiction. Data may come from the address and information provided with the customer counterparty information contained with the email address and invoice, other transactional information among others. So the company should consider incorporating the review such information into sanction compliance program, even if obtained with a different reason, such as business security purposes, to ensure the company is utilizing available information sanction compliance purposes. Office of Foreign Asset Control takes enforcement actions against the company with the virtual currency industry that gave the prohibited activity because they failed to prevent sanction jurisdiction with accessing and using the platforms. This was due in part with the failure to use the geological information in possession. Office of Foreign Asset Control civil penalties enforcement information webpage of the enforcement action against virtual currency companies in 2020 and 2021. Knowing your customer procedures, or KYC, obtaining information from the customers during onboard throughout the life cycle of the customer relationship, using such information conduct due diligence sufficient mitigate the potential sanction related risk of the information can be utilized sanction programs screening process prevent violation. For example, the information gathering may include the following elements on board during periodic reviews processing customer transactions, including individual's legal name, date of birth, physical email address, nationality, IP address associated with the transaction, login, bank information, governmental identification, and residency documents. Entities, entity name, including trade and legal name, line of business, owner information, physical email address, location information, IP address, associated transaction, logins information, and where entity does business, and banking information, any related relevant government documents. High-risk customers may warrant additional due diligence. This could include, for example, examining customer transaction history for the connection, sanction, jurisdiction, transaction, virtual currency address of the link to the sanctioned actors. Additional information collected adhering to the existing anti-money laundering obligations as applicable, as may also be the help of assessing mitigating sanction risks. The CNS advisory illicit activity involving convertible virtual currency. For more information regarding AML or anti-money laundering obligations, transaction monitoring and investigation. Transaction monitoring investigation software can be used to identify transactions involve the virtual currency address of identifying information, originator beneficiary exchanges, the underlying transactional data associated with sanctioned individuals and under the special designated national list, other sanctioned list located within the sanctioned jurisdiction of the international control helps to equip virtual currency companies with the ability to prevent transfer of addresses. Associated sanctioned person avoid violation of U.S. sanctions. The virtual currency industry may also employ the transaction monitoring investigation tools to continually review historical information such as addresses, other identifying information to better understand the exposure of sanction risks, identifying sanction compliance program deficiencies. 2018, when the Office of Foreign Asset Control began including within certain known virtual currency addresses identifying information for a person listed within a special designated national list. These virtual currency addresses can be searched with the ID field with the Office of Foreign Asset Control Sanction List search tool. At best, for the practice of the risk-based complying with the operating with the virtual currency industry should employ the tool sufficient identifying with a block with a transaction associated block person, including transactions associated with the virtual currency address included with a special designated national list. Moreover, the Office of Foreign Asset Control inclusion virtual currency address with a special designated national list may assist with the industry identified with the virtual currency addresses, may be associated block person over the proposed sanction of the risk, even if the other addresses of the more specifically explicitly listed with a special designated national list. For example, unlisted virtual currency addresses share a wallet with listed virtual currency address may pose sanction risk because sharing of a wallet indicated an association with a block person. Similarly, virtual currency company may consider conducting a historical look back of these transactional activity. The Office of Foreign Asset Control virtual currency set in special designated national list identify connection to the listed address. A look back could be identifying with the connection and unlisted addresses that previously transacted listed addresses on such unlisted addresses can also pose sanction for the risk depending on the nature of the transaction. Company with the virtual currency industry may consider the deploying blockchain analytical tools help identify with and mitigate the sanction risk, implementing remedial measures upon learning of the weakness of the company's sanction compliance internal controls include the discovery of the apparent sanction violation. Virtual currency companies are encouraged to take immediate effective action to the extent with possible to identify with and implement with the compensating control of the root cause of the weakness of the determine and remediate with the consistency of the enforcement guidelines of the foreign asset control may consider the mitigating factor of the potential enforcement of the virtual currency company's implementation of remedial measures for the taken in response to the apparent violation. Sanction screening can be essential for the part of the vital currency company. Internal controls may include geological location, considering customer identification, transaction screening, or more. Virtual currency companies should consider the implementing found with a screen-related best practice with the sanction compliance program. Screen customer information with the Office of Foreign Asset Control administrative sanction list with the included special designated nationalist list with the time of the onboard screen transaction identified with the address including physical digital wallet, IP address over the relevant information potential list with the sanctioned person of the jurisdiction. Utilizing screen tools, fuzzy logical capabilities account with the common name of the variation misspelling. For example, misspellings, alternate spellings related to sanctioned jurisdiction, variation, capitalization, spacing, punctuation, names of person, Office of Foreign Asset Control sanction list, ongoing sanction screening, risk-based screening, for example, the related historical look back to the account updated customer information upon updates off of the foreign asset control sanction list change for the regulatory requirements. Remedying root cause violation in response to the Office of Foreign Asset Control and Enforcement Action. Federal currency companies have taken an action to remediate the root cause of the parent violation and identifying the weakness in internal controls implementation, new control to prevent future violations. Some of the remedial pressure measures include implementing IP address blocking, email related to restriction sanction jurisdiction, creating keywords, list of sanction jurisdiction cities for the region, views and screening of the KYC information, reviewing, updating end user agreement to include the information U.S. sanction requirements, conducting retroactive batch screening of all users, implementing OFAC with a related training program for employees, conducting additional sanction compliance training, all relevant personnel, hiring additional compliance staff with a dedicated chief of the sanction and compliance officer, risk indicator and red flags, in addition to the screen transaction and the KYC identifying information. Virtual currency companies should also consider monitoring transaction user risk indicators or red flags that may indicate that sanctions nexus. Example of risk indicators of the main individuals that needs who provide inaccurate customer identification or KYC information, attempting to open an account, attempt to access virtual currency exchange with the IP address of VPN or VPN connected to a sanctioned jurisdiction. Non-responsive refuse to provide update customer identification or KYC information. Non-responsive refuse to provide additional transaction information. Responsive virtual currency companies request attempts to transact virtual currency address associated block person sanctioned jurisdiction. Additional as appropriate. Red flags indicate that the money laundering other illicit financial activities may also indicate with the potential sanction evasions. Testing and auditing the best way to ensure the sanction compliance program is working as well as intended. Effective the program companies will incorporate competent with an independent objective testing audit function of the sanction compliance program, equipped with ensure that they are aware of how the programs are performing, what aspects need to be updated, enhanced, and recalibrated to account change risk assessment sanction environment. Size and sophistication of the company may determine the conduct's internal external audit with the sanction compliant with the program. Some best practice for the testing auditing procedures sanction compliant programs of virtual currency industry include sanction list screening, ensuring the screening of the special designated nationals list and with the other sanction lists are functionally effective and is appropriate flagging transaction further review. Keyword screening, ensuring the screen tools of the appropriate flag geographical words connecting with the KYC related screening with the other transaction screening. IP blocking, ensuring IP address software is properly preventing users in sanctioned jurisdiction assessing products and services. Investigating and report review procedure, investigating transaction, identifying throughout the screening process having potential sanction nexus, transaction involving the black person, key related sanction jurisdiction, and or procedure block properly rejected transaction, reporting Office of Foreign Asset Control. Training. Filing sanctions, specifically training, is critical of success of the company's sanction compliance program. Scope of the company's training will inform the side of the investigation and the risk profile of the company. Of foreign asset control training provide with all appropriate employees that include compliance with the management, customership with the personnel, with the show and conduct with a periodic basis at a minimum annually. Well-developed Office of Foreign Asset Control training program will provide job-specific knowledge based on the need, communicate with sanction compliance responsibility for each employee, with the whole employee accountable for the meeting of the training requirements through the use of the assessments. Effective Office of Foreign Asset Control training of the virtual currency industry should account for the frequent change to updated sanction programs as well as the new and emerging technologies in virtual currency space. Office of Foreign Asset Control resources. For more information on Office of Foreign Asset Control, please visit the OFAC website where you find the answers to frequently asked questions, including specific of the virtual currency industry information, resident designated action sanction list update with the publication general license advisories, other guidances. Office of Foreign Asset Control issues frequency update with encouraged virtual currency companies signed with the OFAC with the recent action notification receive updates existing guidance. And it shows the frequency asked question the current topics, new frequent asked on the purpose of the OFAC sanction. What does the term digital currency or digital currency wallet, digital currency address, or virtual currency mean? Are my OFAC obligations same regardless of the transaction denominated in digital currency or traditional flat currency? How will OFAC use the existing authority sanction you with the digital currency illicit purpose of OFAC when identifying digital currency related to information special designated national list? What is the structure of the digital currency address of the OFAC special designated national list? It is possible to query with the digital currency address the OFAC sanction list search tool. How do I block virtual currency? Should an institution tell a customer that it's blocked access to the digital currency, and how does the institution explain it to the customer? Alright, Venezuela virtual currency frequency. Yes. Contact information, Office of Foreign Asset Control Compliance Hotlines versus public OFAC guidelines include general information, OFC assistance using sanction list search tool, specific guidelines how to comply with the OFC administrative sanction programs, tips of navigating OFAC website, and helpful guidance and other information on OFAC, such as answer frequently asked questions with the encouraged virtual currency industry contract, the OFAC question guidance, comply with the sanctions, toll-free hotline, local of OFC compliance hotline, OFCA license application status hotline, email hotline, voluntary self-disclosure submission, report submission, ORSA, inaccessible, or at resource sites, OFC, Office of Foreign Asset Controls, and that is all the pages. So this was Sanction Compliance Guidance of the Virtual Currency Industry.